Hey guys, if you are at a screen where you're able to share your camera, you're welcome to turn that on now so that we can have more of like a face-to-face interaction like it would be if we were all in a room together. If not, no big deal. So before we get started, I'll just kind of give a little bit of an overview of the objectives for this particular session. First of all, thank you guys for staying. Jen and I were just talking, how many people are going to stay? 5, 10? We have a big attendance, I think. So that's exciting. So thank you guys. So in terms of the objectives for this session, one of the main overarching goals for the Pasture Consortium is to make sure that the research priorities are aligning with educational priorities and aligning with what it is that we present every year at our consortium. We're aware that we are one of the only educational groups in our region. So we want to make sure that basically our research and education priorities are aligned to what's happening currently within the industry and what it is that we can change on this document to make sure that where research dollars are, we are documenting that, and where current research projects are, we're documenting that, but also more importantly, we're documenting what is needed within our industry. So we said this earlier, but if you're able to, so this is going to be an interactive session. So if you have something to say, just unmute yourself. You don't need to type in questions or anything, just go ahead and shout it out. This is going to be super casual. And if you have access to your camera, you can go ahead and turn that on if you're able, just so we can get more of a face-to-face experience and we can all see one another. So this was sent out a few days ago. It was also sent out this morning again, but we'll just go down through each one of these. I have my track changes on so we can see what was said back in 2020. That was the last time that we were together, was in Vermont in 2020. That's whenever this edition was edited. And we'll go ahead and make the new additions to this document as we see fit. So what you'll see here are 2 different colors. The yellow, we have highlighted priorities with research components. Oh, and I should have added, typically whenever we are face-to-face, we'll have private sector to go in one room and discuss what the needs of the farmers are from researchers and from educators. And then we'll have public to go in another room and discuss where current research opportunities are. And then we'll get back together and we'll combine all of those thoughts. So that's where the 2 different colors came from on this document. Today, we're not splitting up, obviously, so we're all in one room together. So we'll just work together on this document and get it updated. So this has been known to go 3 to 4 hours, as those of us who have been in this meeting know. Let's try to get it done by 5 o'clock if we can. So that's our goal for today. All right. So number 1, explore new methods to transfer knowledge and information to increase adoption of research findings with the agriculture community, incorporate social science research, and to increase adoption and technology transfer. So this really has a lot to do with some of the things that we talked about today. Okay, first off, we have including farm organizations and advocacy groups to additionally influence regulation and legislations. So essentially what this one is, as you read down through it, is how all of our different agencies and organizations are working together for the incorporation of social science research. Is there any additions, or are there any additions to any of this that need to be addressed?
Jessica, one thing I would add with us looking at the social scientists, and you and Jen and I have talked about this, is the new ARS location in Vermont, the Food Systems Research Center, and including them not only on our executive committee, but they are currently hiring 2 social scientists. One is already hired, one's coming on board soon. So I think they're going to be critical to this effort.
What are their, like, what their position objective, the social scientists?
One is more farmer related and one's more consumer related. Beyond that, I have to go look it up. But that was the hiring of the 2.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Did you say the location? You said Vermont, but then you said something else.
No, that's just the ARS location for Vermont. I think they're located right on Burlington because they're tied tightly with UVM. Yep.
Okay.
I think I heard Jen chirp in there. Yep.
Okay, perfect.
And Chris Peterson, or Chris Peterson. I'm gonna have to look at it.
Is that where he's located?
Peters. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
He's the research leader up there.
And you said that he does have interest in becoming more active within the consortium and seeing how his group can perhaps be more involved?
Very much.
Okay. Jen, can you keep track of the chats?
I am. Juan just noted that he spoke with Chris this week, and Chris is very excited to work with us.
Mm-hmm. He is.
Okay, we can make that an objective, Jen, for before our next April meeting, to just send a note to him to just bridge that connection and get the conversation started.
Yep, I'll start a follow-up to do.
Okay, an action item list.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, seek new contact with USDA NRCS chief. What is, it says invitation to the 2021 pasture consortium. It didn't happen. COVID happened. Who is that? What is that name? Does anyone know? Anybody here from NRCS?
Yeah, yep, this is Karen Hoffman in New York.
Oh, hey, Karen. Mm-hmm.
Hi. So the new chief is Terry Crosby, I think is his last name.
Carrie?
Terry with a T.
Terry, okay.
It's either Cosby or Crosby. I can never remember.
It's Crosby.
Crosby. Thank you, Damon.
No problem.
And he actually is a career NRCS person, which tends to be better than a political appointee. So.
Okay, perfect. Well, you can put that on our action item list when we're in person next year.
Yep.
Strengthen extension and university research connections, listserv. Okay, so this is actually something that Jen and I started this year. And essentially what we're doing is just building an ongoing working list of networking opportunities. And so that's ongoing. With that being said, if anyone on this call, actually, you can just drop it in the chat right now, if you don't mind. So we have groups like the Maryland, Delaware Forage and Grasslands Council, the Pennsylvania Forage Council, Vermont Grazers, things like that already listed. But if you are involved in a forage council or a grazing group, if you could just drop that name and the contact name in the chat, If you know that Jen and I already have it on the list, you don't have to add it, because I know that a lot of you helped us to build that list. But if you're involved in an organization that would be good to just continue to network with, Jen has really been very active with our newsletter. Sarah Gossley is very active with our website and social media, and I also post things on social media. And our overarching goal is to essentially have this large web of networks where we can help other folks advertise for perhaps conferences or field days that are coming up, and they can help us advertise for our upcoming events. So like I said, just drop any information that you might have for any Northeastern group or Mid-Atlantic group in the chat, if you are not sure that we already have that on our list. Jen, do you have anything to add to that, to this this one right here?
No, I think that this is a great place to start. I certainly will say that the person-to-person recommendations, reaching out to anyone who you think might be interested in this and sending them to the Grazing Guide website, they can sign up for the newsletter there. So that's one place we've really, Sarah's helped us embed a sign-on sheet for our newsletter list. So we don't have to manage a spreadsheet with additions and deletions of folks. So if you know folks who have interest in these topics, and you've seen we cover a wide variety of topics related to pasture and grazing, send them right to the Grazing Guide website and they can sign up right there.
Yep. Perfect. Also, we're active on Facebook primarily. We also have an Instagram account. You can find us under Grazing Guide. I'll put that right here. And we post like any updated information that we have on those sites. Okay.
And as Sarah pointed out, also Twitter.
Are we on Twitter?
Grazing Guide's also on Twitter. Yep.
Okay, I'm not on Twitter, so I miss it. Okay.
Thanks, Sarah.
And farmers from all Northeast states. What's this one? Reach out to existing grazing networks within each state to re-engage farmer. Oh, this is kind of the same thing that we just talked about.
Yep.
Okay. More efficient outreach of objectives. I think we did a good job of meeting this objective. Wouldn't you agree, Jen?
I would actually. It's an ongoing work in progress process, but it's definitely improved.
Yep, for sure. Okay, number 2. So that one was more about our social interaction and communication. These next couple are going to be more focused on specific research objectives or education objectives. So this is really where we need your input on what's going on within your communities, what's going on within your sector of the industry. So this first one here says ecosystem services and disservices from pasture systems and grazing management. And then we have riparian areas, water quality and availability, wildlife benefits, impacts of permanent stream and stream bank exclusion, and economic models. So I remember whenever we put this on here, and it was whenever we were in Albany, that was really a focus of, I think that was 2018. It seemed like that was really the focus of the Pasture Consortium in 16, 17, 18, was talking a lot about riparian areas. Is this something that we want to add to or change or remove based on where our objectives have shifted?
I believe that it's still relevant, and I say that because Franklin County, Pennsylvania the Conservation District just put out a program to implement grass riparian buffer systems with the payment and all that.
Okay.
And so I think it's kind of circling back, I think.
Yeah, okay.
some of that too, Jeff, came from, well, it would have been Pete Kleiman at the time, who was our research leader, who has since
Yep.
left for another RL position, was really pushing the grazing riparian areas, which NRCS currently does not support. And we were going to do some research on that. Well, between COVID, which delayed everything, we couldn't get out on farms. And then Pete leaving, we really haven't been able to do anything in that area.
Mhm.
And until we have another soil or water quality type champion the cause, we'll have to see what happens with the new RL and where we might go from there. But right now it's kind of on pause.
Okay. Should I make a note of that? I can add a comment, I guess, here instead of adding it into the actual document, kind of where it originated.
That was some of it anyway. I know it was been coming from the producers for some time. We were trying to address that, but a lot of.
I mean, truthfully, it was like a really hot topic within our group there for a couple of years, and then it just kind of fizzled off. So that, I guess that could potentially be why. Spell his last name. Is it like this?
Klein.
Oh, E-I-N.
Yes, we also have a comment. Juan is not able to, he's writing his comments. He's not able to unmute.
Oh,
He
okay.
said water quality never goes away. Excellent point. And suggested adding biodiversity ecosystem service in there. We don't currently have a biodiversity.
I think that's important because we've actually got some work. Sarah Gosling has a postdoc, and we're looking a little bit at some of this pollinator stuff. I think they're bigger ecosystem services than what we were looking at 2 or 3 years ago.
Like scale.
This one just said biodiversity is the next carbon. It's a little bit bigger than carbon, just like carbon.
Okay. Anything else on number 2 before I move on? Any additions?
Do you guys, I'm sorry, I'm kind of new to this group, but do you have like effects of pasture systems on greenhouse gas balance? Or I know there was a presentation on carbon sequestration, but I see there's
Used to.
there's a lot of work going on greenhouse gas emissions.
I think it's section 3, just.
I know we used to. Where is it?
I know Al L. Rotz, I think he has done some work on that already.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. So number 3. Oh no, okay, that's just silvopasture contribution.
Right.
I know that we used to have one. Did we take it out?
Well, it could fall under that one, is up and under number 2, the economic models for ecosystem service payments. Perhaps you could have their greenhouse gas balance or something. You know, I saw some studies with the comparing grain-fed beef, for example, greenhouse gas footprint compared to grazing systems, things like that.
Within, I'm going to say management systems. Does that make sense? Greenhouse gases within management systems. Okay.
Yeah, I think that would be important. That was one I was going to bring up too. I wasn't exactly sure where it fit best, but that's something. So I'm on the team that's revising the prescribed grazing standard for NRCS, the national standard for NRCS, and we were hoping to add a purpose based on greenhouse gas, either carbon sequestration or greenhouse gas flux, or something along those lines, but we weren't able to find enough peer-reviewed documentation to support it, to put it in the high level of that standard. So we are incorporating it as much as we can, but more research would be very helpful in that case. For the next, they're reviewed every 5 years and then determined if they need to have a full revision at that point. So,
Okay.
you know, hopefully by the next time it's redone, then we have some more information to go on.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, thank you. I feel like this one is such a huge one and we don't have many bullet points for it. I don't know if it's because it's kind of straightforward in our explanation of it. I don't know, but I feel like it is a much larger impact than the space that it takes up on our document. If that makes any sense.
I would agree.
Yep. All right, this next one is about silvopasture. And it's talking about contributions to carbon sequestration, adaptive strategy, and changing climate conditions. Tell me about what's going on in silvopasture now in your areas. Is this something that's still of use to keep on our list? Talk to me a little bit. Talking about different species.
So I know it's still of interest. I think some of the interest has died down some, but it's still going fairly strong. I think it's important to encourage more education about silvopasture because many people have incomplete view of what silvopasture is, I think.
Yeah. The things that are on here I'm noticing are very specific items rather than just generalized things. Like we literally have like species names on here, you know? So I don't know if we should make this a sub bullet. We can certainly make it a sub bullet under number 2 if we want. Because I think that it can kind of go into what we just talked about with number 2. And then instead of having it as a standalone objective, it can kind of go into what we were talking about with the different systems managements. What are our thoughts on that? Or should it be a standalone? I know it's a completely different form of management. I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure how much research is going on with it right now.
I think that number 3 also has both the kind of going towards ecosystem services, but also going towards kind of improving management, figuring out how to improve management. So it's kind of doing both. So some of it could go in that upper bullet. Some of it may not necessarily fit, whether we keep that or not. I don't know.
So,
but it is specific.
It seems like even some of these the bullet number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are so specific that do we want to get into some larger overarching ideas, like you said, ecosystem services, and what some of these may fall under that? I just feel like and I hate to say this, a big reorganization of this into how we. I mean, it seems like this came out of somebody had this idea, so we made it a bullet point. Somebody had this idea, so we made it a bullet point, a number bullet point, not the sub points.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, when we think about how we write our research objectives and that, because we're just starting that for our national program, that it's more of an overarching idea, like ecosystem services. Okay, let's put pollinators under there. Let's put wildlife under there. Let's put, biodiversity. Let's put whatever we want to put under there.
So technically this, where's number 1? I mean, this is like a half of a paragraph that we have here, number 1,
yeah. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to solve that in 20 minutes, but maybe we can.
Right.
important points that, yeah, this is still relevant and this is kind of past.
Okay.
It feels like that's the piece that we really need the input from across the region on is whether these pieces should be in here, should not be in here. And then Jess and I could have a separate meeting, sort of put our heads together about how it might be
Yeah, we can restructure.
reorganized and then share it back out.
And I want to hear more from the farmers. If not right now, send it to Jen. I call them J&J, Jess and Jen. I send them emails all the time. J&J?
Yeah,
you know,
as one of those farmers.
Put it in the chat or send them an email.
I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yes, please, Megan.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm in WOVA, so I'm confused in what's happening in Zoom versus WOVA. So as far as silvopasture, I know that we have a lot personally that we are planning on turning into silvopasture. It's heavily wooded now, but we used pigs last year in it. They cleaned up a lot. And I guess more practical for a farmer anyway. I'm a farmer. On like terms of the actual transition. You know, how many years it's going to take us to do this for us is probably ridiculously long, but it's practical for us. So for research, I don't know if you need any research, but more just like the basics. If you're talking about getting this out to farmers, the basics on actual, like, you know, you can get in the nitty gritty stuff and how to manage it after you get it, if that's what you want. But you know, that's just where we're at. I don't know. Like I've heard all the talks on like managing and different grasses, but we don't even have a silvopasture yet. We're got to create one. And I think that's most people's. They don't have a pretty silvopasture to begin with. They have to create it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would definitely echo that as one of those farmers that's working to establish a silvopasture area. I'm working with NRCS. And there's a practice standard in Massachusetts for silvopasture creation, both by addition and subtraction. But they don't actually fund silvopasture creation by subtraction at all within Massachusetts, is my understanding. And I feel like if there was more research there to show that it was a valuable practice, maybe they'd be more likely to do that.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
I apologize for the background noise. I have an unpredictable 3-year-old.
Hey, that's no problem. I'm just waiting for mine to come blowing through the door any minute. So, all right. Soil biology and management impacts on animal health and human health. Small ruminant parasite research at WVU, Rhode Island, Cornell. Who can give an update on that?
This is Karen in New York again. Tatiana Stanton at Cornell was part of a research project with those other universities, I believe. And my farm was actually one of the farms here in New York that participated. We planted bird's foot trefoil and then grazed lambs, and another farm had goats on it. So she's probably, you know, she could give a report on it next year maybe.
Okay.
Because I think like they're still analyzing all the data right now, but and I don't know about other farms in West Virginia or Rhode Island, but I do think everybody kind of established the bird's foot trefoil and it using a different method. So that would also be kind of interesting.
What was her name?
Dr. Tatiana Stanton.
Did I spell that right?
Yep.
Okay.
What we might need
She's
to
at Cornell.
Yes.
Yep.
What we might need to do, Jessica, is since I don't think we have Rhode Island or WVU here, Scott Bodridge, if he's still at WVU, and Catherine Peterson, is that who's at Rhode Island?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Maybe we need to touch base with them just if they're still there, still doing this kind of research.
Yep.
I know Dr. Peterson still is.
And actually, Jess, if you scroll back up, I just want to check in. So number 4 and number 5 have a bit of overlap in terms of the language. These impacts on human and animal health, and then also the, meat further research on meat and dairy products. I don't know if we want to include in both sections 4. We already have some human health in section 5, but I'm just thinking about the work that Stefan is doing. Do we need to identify places for this work in our region to connect with other work that's being done elsewhere? And it sort of seemed like section 4 might actually be that, but because section 5 has some more detailed.
Well, it seems like to me section 4 is like the
Animal health side.
And
it's more like the
animal
soils,
health.
forage, animal health side.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I read
then
that. Maybe we
5
should
is
pull
the
human health off that.
Yeah, off number 4.
Yeah. So if you,
Where is
if
it?
you pull off human health off 4, then that totally answers my question or suggestion.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Number 5 is outrageously popular within our consortium right now. Which is where we got Stefan to come in and talk today. What else do we have going on here?
Yana Croft at UVM, still doing that work, Jen?
She was at the beginning of COVID. I presume that she still is.
I haven't heard. Did you just lose touch with everybody? And then that next one was the artificial gut. That was Winmore. Peggy Thomas put that one out, and her group. That was ARS work, but I don't know like Peggy Thomasula, ARS at Winmore, PA. THOMASULA, I think.
Yep, Peggy is actually on the call. I don't know if she has the ability to unmute.
Okay. See, I guess
maybe. I was gonna say she may not be able to.
Hello.
Oh, there she is. Hey. Peggy.
Felt like behind the glass and I can't get in.
Sorry, there's no.
You didn't know you were going to get called on.
Sorry.
I misspelled her name, Jess. It's TOM.
Okay.
But this is where we left off back then before COVID. And since then, I've lost 6 people and we're opening up next week. So I do have to, doing hiring too. So we do have to revisit this too, like the A2 milk. That might not be as a big issue anymore, but the other research is certainly going on, will be going on, and we might have to revisit some of our connections too to get this work done and bring it up to date.
Okay.
So we're very happy to do this again. Oh, believe me, be great to get back.
Awesome. Thank you. Where did this one come from? Probiotics, prebiotics. Was that a specific project that someone was working on? Peggy, was that your group as well?
That could be us too. We do have, yes, we do have a group that does that work, 2 groups that do that work. So.
Okay.
I don't remember the particulars though at this moment. I have to check my notes too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. C3, C4 grasses, forbs and effects on omega-3 in milk and meat. Impacts of plant-based products marketed as. Oh, this was our.
That was big.
Yeah.
So, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. So we with Yana Kraft at UVM and a few other researchers, we did a study in 2014 about omega-3 from cool season pastures versus one monocrop. In that case was millet, and we did we did have some publications on that. So I'm sure the topic is not exhausted, but that topic was taken.
Well, since this was a research objective, could we get some of that up on the website? Maybe some summaries, or if you have, I mean, it could be papers, but it's nice to put out summaries for layman summaries as well too.
Yes, we have 3 publications about that.
Mhm.
Fact sheets. Send me fact sheets for popular consumption. And that goes for
Yeah,
anybody,
so
anything you'd
I
like
was
on the
just going to
website.
say that, Sarah. Anything that's on this list, if you are doing the research, if you know of someone that's doing the research, send those to Sarah Gossley. It's just sarah.gossley at USA.
And there's contact
.gov.
information on the website.
I'll
Yeah.
send it to you, Sarah.
Great.
No problem.
Thank you, guys. That goes for anyone. If any of these research objectives, just send them over to her and she can get those up on our website. That's a huge part of our outreach, is that website and the content that Sarah compiles there. And then it appears in search engines whenever people search for these sort of things. So thank you again, Sarah, for taking care of all of that. Fiber digestibility and milk quality correlations. I mean, there's quite a bit out there, right? Kathy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite sure where this or who originated this one.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm thinking it's just a topic of conversation. It's not a research need, correct?
I think, because I mean, I'm trying, that one's not ringing a bell to anything in particular, anybody in particular.
Yeah. Okay, and
I
then,
think what we can do too, Jess, is we can put this, when we get this, maybe even with this one, but before we touch it, we can send it out again, particularly to the researchers. Say, hey, what have you been working on? And can you send us fact sheets for the results? I think putting it out there again would help.
I agree.
Because we didn't have that ask in the original email of yours.
Okay. Addressing heavy use areas, vegetation management. Deep bed packs, composted packs, wood chips. So this is just basically a comparative analysis of those things. Economic impact on handling facilities, heavy use areas, cost-effective options. Biological composition of bedded packs, bale grazing and infield winter management, calving, species evaluation.
So Deb Nair, John Barlow, and a few other researchers did a study on bedded pack and mastitis. And I think they may have a paper out. So I'm gonna check, and if they have a paper out, I can also send it to you, Sarah.
That'd be great, thank you.
Sure.
Although really research papers aren't the best thing. If you've got a fact sheet written for a farmer audience, that's better.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a fact sheet written, but we can check.
It counts as outreach, so get them to write one.
So in terms of this bale grazing, not so much with calving, but I do know that maybe 3 years ago, Rob Minen at Penn State wrote an article on bale grazing. So I'll see if I can dig that up somewhere and get that sent over to you.
I'll also let you know that there's a fairly large CIG grant that has just started in Vermont this year that looks at pasture management and improvement in a bunch of different ways. One of the things that one of the practices that is looking at is documenting what happens in places where folks are bale grazing.
Okay.
There's other sort of seeding and amendments as well, but that's a CIG that's being run by the Vermont Land Trust.
That'll be great. I've seen some recent presentations from folks in Wisconsin and Minnesota where they've even got like I think usually around 4 to 6 tons of dry matter per acre of production in the few years, not the immediate year following bale grazing, but few years after, going from pretty low production and really increasing. So it'd be interesting to see, if that could be, it was more anecdotal, so it'd be neat to see out here if it can be quantified a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is there's a CIG grant in Kentucky that is a multi-state effort. I know New York, and I think maybe Pennsylvania is a part of it also. They just got the grant funding. So in a couple of years, they're looking more at the soil health aspects of bale grazing. So anyway, so that's an opportunity at some point in the future.
Awesome.
Pennsylvania is not part of that one.
I was just going to say, is Seward still on?
I was just at the conference in the Western Pennsylvania Grazing Conference, and there was a person there from Kentucky who was talking about this, and New York is part of that effort, but Pennsylvania somehow they didn't have a collaborator there.
Okay.
Do you remember the other state, Seward?
Oh, it's a whole bunch south of us.
Oh, okay.
And then New York, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I can get the complete list if somebody wants it.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Farm profitability and upcoming societal changes. Good job, Jen, for getting a big check mark for this one this time for our farm succession planning. So compare different philosophies, results, benchmark, development of artificial and plant-based meat and milk. That's something that we really wanted to bring to the conference this year, but we didn't have time. We had a full day of Zoom meetings and we didn't want to Zoom another person in to talk about that. But in my personal opinion, I think that this is really something that is going to be more and more popular and pertinent to our industry that we're all a part of and representing. So if anyone knows of any work that's being done that is promoting animal-based proteins over either artificial, lab-created, plant-based, etc., please send those. If you know of a good speaker, please let Jen and I know. That's really something that we wanted to bring to this consortium meeting this year. It didn't happen. We did get Stefan, which we also wanted. But we've noticed in terms of our surveys that the interest in our group is focusing around human health and understanding the benefits of plant, or the negative side of plant-based protein and artificial protein versus animal protein. So in terms of surveys from our group, this meeting from our group, and just what's going on in our industry, I feel like this is definitely something that we need to focus on and get someone in to speak on it in the future. If you know of somebody really cool, let me know.
So I'm wondering, and you don't have to do it now, but when you and Jen or other folks are looking at rearranging this, I'm wondering if that kind of plant artificial versus real meat might
Mhm.
go up in that the nutrition
Oh, the
section,
animal or human nutrition.
because farm profitability and upcoming cultural societal changes, I think, might be too big of an umbrella.
Yeah,
And so just maybe splitting that out.
good.
So you don't have to worry about reformatting now, but maybe just a
Mhm.
note.
Yep. I can't
So
see that.
Jessica, there is a lot of interest amongst the whole regenerative agriculture community, and they seem to have a new appreciation for the value of grazing livestock for soil health. And I've seen some consumers, and they converted from being vegetarian, and they converted to eating again animal products because of that.
Mhm.
It's interesting to see that shift.
Yeah, for sure.
There's also Michael Pollan. He is an influential journalist who writes about food. And he's in his book, he wrote some influential books about food, and he is basically proponing that we should eat less meat, but he's not proposing no meat.
Mhm.
So less excess, I guess, and more of a natural way of looking at food, also not looking at all these, just putting a whole bunch of components together, but more a natural way of producing food and having more natural kinds of food.
Okay.
And it seems a very powerful movement that
Mhm.
many consumers are following. I
More
think he writes
grass-fed.
for the New York Times sometimes.
I can second that. We have customers of our own that said they used to be vegetarian or vegan, and they are now confident in buying meat again if they know who it's from. That's really exciting. I forgot, on a national platform, I forget his name, the guy that makes all the bulletproof supplements, he used to be vegan, and now he has his own farm started to raise his own meat and sell as well. So it's kind of fun watching him. He's a little out there, but he's kind of fun to watch teach people.
Jessica, I also wanted to mention, I've started to think more and more about just grazing as being often a very important component of farming systems that are not 100% relying on farming. So it's a component of a livelihood of people. I think it is very important. We often focus so much on farmers and we assume they are 100% farmers, but I think many times in the grazing world, we're talking to people who are part-time farmers, and they combine it as part of their livelihood. And we often we talk a little bit, we never really think about the impact that has on their farming practices. And they have smaller farms. They might have only 20 acres or 30 acres. And we often, in extension, for example, we don't know very well what to do with those people. We think, how are they going to buy a new piece of equipment for 20 acres? Or they don't have a lot of resources. And then they have a full-time job and they don't have, and I think we need to think more about that, because I think it is actually the majority of pasture-based production is like that. And I think it would be helpful if we paid more attention to that. How does that impact their farming practices? For example, we run into this with these farmers who are doing management intensive grazing practices, and we see the benefit of moving animals regularly, but then you sometimes have these people and they have a job that they're away for half of the week. So they are traveling a lot. They can't move the animals every day. So things like that.
Yep.
I would actually add to that. I think that in itself was, an excellent suggestion. And even someone who is full-time farming or full-time on the farm, where this really does fit into the sort of profitability and just sort of overall picture is farms as businesses may not have the majority of their income from grazing. So what role does grazing play in a whole farm business?
Yeah.
Because if we fit the land base, that doesn't always pay all the bills.
Yeah, and one little thing, I really feel that also to look at grazing as a way of economic development in rural areas to address rural, well, the economic challenge. Some of these areas are very economically challenged, and I think this could be an important addition to income of rural people and add to their welfare, to their well-being.
Say your first. Grazing as a development of economic.
No, it's more like for economic development. Grazing as a means of stimulating rural development. USDA has a rural development program, and also they have the Agricultural Marketing Service has programs for local food and things like that. And I think our policymakers and legislators, I think they are very interested in this aspect of how to use this as a way of improving economies in the rural areas.
Mm-hmm.
To take that a step further, you remember back in the early 1900s, every town had its own wood mill, every town had its own feed mill, every town had its own little everything. So it was its own little economy, and how that was so strong because everything was its own little economy. Now everything is so huge and on a massive, like you have to go out of your county and out of your town and even into another state. Like we buy grain from another state to get what we need. And from an economic standpoint, how weak we are. I don't know if this is something that this group needs to address, but I just think it's, along these lines, it's just, it's interesting to see how far off we've come from, how, I don't know, it just used to be really strong in that way.
So these are some of the questions that the food systems USDA ARS group is starting to ask questions about, Megan. So I actually think that it does make sense to add something around storage, processing, infrastructure. It doesn't do us any good to produce whatever we produce if we can't get it to the people who need it, if we can't have it available for people who need it, and if we can't access those things. So, and we have in the past talked about processing. We have talked about some of those other sort of infrastructural pieces of this greater grazing puzzle, just like we've talked about forage quality and other kinds of things.
Help me.
I just put in storage and processing infrastructure in my.
And economic implications from that?
Totally could be that.
Okay.
When we send this draft to Chris Peters and the other folks doing work in this area, I think that they can help us sort of fill this in, but just to know that they are working on it, and I think we want this to be included on the list.
Okay.
So Jen, involved in that, I think, with a lot of these small producers, small farms, there's a missed opportunity for collaboration with other producers because of the go it alone mentality we we often have. And so I think if, opportunities for collaboration to make some of these infrastructures work.
I think that really goes hand in hand with what Seward said about like the grazing as a means of economic development as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Like your co-op that you're doing, Sure.
Hey, Jessica, this is Andres Sibbles here from USDA NIFA. Thanks for allowing me to listen in today. This has been very, very interesting. I wanted to just say a couple of things. I noticed on your first page, you had Scott Engel as the USDA NIFA director. He hasn't been the director for a while. I don't know if you want the updated contact folks there.
Where do I have
one? Let's see, some bullet or two further down. Oh, there you go. Scott Angle.
Fourth
okay.
bullet.
There it is.
Yeah. So our current director is about to leave as well. So
okay.
Yeah. So what I would say you might want to contact Kevin Kephart is a deputy director. He's my supervisor as well.
Okay.
And the other thing I was going to say, I saw you had OREI there, perhaps as an opportunity to get funding for organic research, extension, education.
Mm-hmm.
If at any point you would like me to contact you with the folks that run that program for specific questions, I'm happy to do that.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So, yeah. Anyhow, just thought I would comment that and compliment you on today's program. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
We skipped past the stiniferous forages. Do we have anything specific on that? I mean, I know that that's bird's foot trefoil, but we have it under clover.
I thought that was related to small ruminant parasite management too. So I think it might be covered by Tatiana and that
I agree.
project, but
okay.
We had done some work looking at tannins as methods of practice, but that's pretty well, we're writing it all up right now. So, but that was related to small ruminant parasites.
We'll say that you're going to take care of our outreach for that one. Sound good, Kathy? All right.
I think I got voluntold.
Do we
That's
have
right.
do we have anything related to diversified enterprises? Last year I submitted, well, for the second time I've submitted unsuccessfully, so it wasn't funded, a project related to beef on dairy to apply here in Vermont and maybe in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's a topic that we would consider, but I will resubmit that project, at some point.
Yeah, I think that we can add that to a bullet point to this number 7 here. I think it kind of falls within that same realm. What are you calling that? Just multi-species operations?
Yes, the short and sweet is beef on dairy.
Mm-hmm.
In Vermont, we have a developed dairy industry that is hurting. So adding beef genetics to some, cull cows could be a way for farmers to, diversify their income and their assets.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, and then we have this number 8 down here that's kind of on its own. Jen, do you remember the story behind this one?
I don't specifically, but I do feel like Dr. Williamson, you might have some insight on planting mixtures, but maybe that's not true.
Yeah, I mean,
given what you do.
We are doing
Williamson
mixtures and alternative forages. I was just writing you a note, Jen, because we are short on time.
Yes, we are.
But and I can follow up with you later, but we're doing a lot of work on extending the grazing season with either cool season mixtures or interseeding or planting alternative forages, warm season annuals, cool season annuals. Jess is familiar with the LT work that we're doing of integrating cropping and grazing systems. So we can get later if you want, but
I think I'm going to take this one at some point and integrate it into one of our other bullet points, but it doesn't need to be done right this second.
right.
I have a fact sheet on mixed forages, on different mixes that I did, for 3 years. I produce a fact sheet only, but I can also bring that fact sheet to the website.
Yes,
Wonderful.
please. Yeah, please
Thank
share,
you.
share that with Sarah.
Yeah.
Excellent. So
Kathy,
that brings us.
Sorry, Kathy, I know there's a producer up in Wisconsin that's just achieved grazing 365 with alternative forages and stuff like that. So
Where were they?
Wisconsin.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damon, could you send me that information? Because I have a former postdoc out there who's working on that as well, and it might.
Okay.
With them, it would be great.
Yep.
Cool.
And I just have 2 other quick things to consider adding. I'm not exactly sure where they go. These were other areas that we felt like there were shortcomings in research on when we were trying to add things to the national standard. One was energy savings of grazing systems. Research on the full suite of energy savings.
I'm going to put that here as well. I think this goes number 7.
And then there's been a lot of research on grazing and wildlife in other parts of the country on range, sage grouse, bobwhite quail, even, in southern, the kind of mid-Atlantic region even. But for New England area, there hasn't been a whole lot in terms of the benefits to wildlife, grassland birds, that sort of thing in New England for us to really base any benefits on. So that was the one other thing that I thought it'd be worth mentioning at least, and we can consider adding.
What'd you call them? Grassland birds?
Grassland birds. Yeah.
Grassland birds. Okay.
So I have neighbors here. They are wildlife professionals, and they work on bark turtles.
Oh, yep.
A threatened turtle in Pennsylvania, and they say they really like to see grazing animals because the turtles need some open space to be able to thrive. But NRCS seems to be very reluctant to allow that because it's kind of in swampy areas. So the turtles might also be there, and there's probably pollinator aspects to it as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's more than birds only, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys. Okay, does anyone else have any inputs or thoughts on things that are missing?
I would love to remind folks too that as this isn't a done deal, so we'll continue to refine this and turn it back out so that so the introverts in the room can also like read it and process it and comment and if they're not coming up with things now.
Absolutely.
Sounds
Yeah,
great.
and just
Yeah, hi. It's great to see the group together again. I missed it over the years.
yeah.
But the one thing that I'm not sure if it's anything to add on this particular document, but we did talk about at probably the last meeting in Vermont was improving the numbers of farmers, the private sector to get them more involved with the Northeast Pasture Consortium, because the number is, over the years that I've been coming to this has certainly gotten way down. So I don't know how that's done. I'm certainly an outsider today. I'm just sitting around, so things have changed. So I just wanted to add that. Thanks.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks for joining.
One last thing I'll add is this, if you guys get this updated with all the input, this is perfect timing because my ARS national program, the Grass Forage and Rangeland Agro-Ecosystems, is just starting our next 5-year research process. So we're starting some planning, developing the action plan with overarching research objectives. So this, I would be happy to take this back and provide it since you are one of our biggest stakeholders.
Wonderful, thank you. Jen, we'll try to find a time next week that our schedules merge and we'll sit down and try to reorganize and see how best we can, I mean, it doesn't have to be in a bullet point list, right? We can put it in some sort of a chart or a flow chart or anything. So for all of you that are here, thank you very, very much for your involvement and for sticking around. Jen and I will work on everything that you see here will be included in some way. I'm just not sure yet what it'll look like. This format, so I joined in 2016, 2015, I think. And it was in this format before I joined. So it has been a living, breathing, working, evolving document. Things have been added, things have been deleted. So we'll just continue to move it around to suit our needs, and we'll stay in touch with you guys. And Jen has the mailing list, so you'll get an email from her after we get it updated. I do have another meeting that I need to prepare for. I'm a speaker at an evening meeting, so I'm gonna need to run. Is there any further last minute questions or updates? All right.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah, so much for your involvement and your candidacy and just for being here today. We really appreciate it.
Fantastic program, J&J.
Thank you.
Thank you so
And
much,
thanks
everyone.
to our executive committee again.
Thank you, guys.
All right, see you guys. Take care.